If you ever find an old cassette tape in a dead person's house, do not press play. Not even once. Because some voices don't stay in the past. Some voices wait for you to listen, and then they learn your name. My name is Sarah. I am 26 years old. And 3 months ago, I found my mother's voice trapped inside a plastic box the size of my palm. I think saying it keeps me safe. For now, please, just listen to the whole thing before you decide I'm crazy. By the end, I think you'll My mother died in March. Cancer. Slow, then fast, the way the doctors always warn you it will be. Her last words to me were soft, almost a whisper. She said, "Sarah, don't listen to anything she said strange things all week about shadows in the corner, about a man standing by the window W. I didn't understand what she meant. I still don't, not fully. But I understand enough now to be Afra. After the funeral, it fell on me to clean out her house. I'm an only child. My father left when everything smelled like her perfume, like old paper, like dust settling on furniture that hadn't been closed to donate. Furniture to sell. Photographs to keep. It was slow, heavy work, the kind that makes your chest hurt, even when your hands are just folding S. On the 5th day, I went up into the attic. I hadn't been up there since I was a kid. Maybe 10-year boxes were stacked everywhere, some so old the cardboard had gone soft and brown at the corners. The old baby clothes, folded so small they looked like they belonged to a doll. Photo albums with plasty, a box of my father's old vinyl records, which surprised me. I thought she'd thrown out everything else. It was old, dark wood, with a little brass clasp gone green with age. It wasn't locked. Inside sit no label. No writing anywhere on it. Just a plain black cassette, the kind you'd find in a bargain bin, but it wasn't dusty like everything else in that attic. It looked clean, almost new, like someone had placed it there recently, even though the box around it looked like it had been sealed. I don't know why, but I picked it up and held it to my chest for a moment. The way you'd hold something told me my mother had touched this last, that her fingers had been the last fingers on it. I know that now. I think somewhere underneath all my grief, some small animal part of me already knew that too. And I didn't have a cassette player. Nobody does anymore. So I drove to 3 different thrift stores before I found an old boom box, dusty and covered, and Stick the man at the counter tested it for me. And it worked, the wheels turning with a soft mechanical whoo. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment with the boom box in front of me. The tape already lower, I pressed play. At first, there was only static, the hiss of old tape running through old machinery. Warm. Exactly as I remembered it, down to the small catch she always had in her throat when she was, "If you're listening to this, then I'm already gone, aren't I? I'm sorry. I want more time. I started crying immediately. It felt like a gift. Like she had left me one more conversation. Hit of the voice continued, talking about small things, how proud she was of me, how she remembered it felt like being wrapped in a blanket that had just come out of the dryer, warm all the way through. I listened to it 3 more times that night. Each time, it felt like a hug from beyond the grave. The next evening, I wanted to hear her voice again. I made tea, sat on the floor in the same spot, then her voice. But something was wrong. "Sarah," the voice said. "My sweet girl, did you sleep well last night? You always used to toss and turn when you were anxious about something. I could always tell, even WH. I froze, my tea cooling in my hands. I had tossed and turned the night before. Actually, no, wait, It had talked about my birth, about my father, about hoping I found someone to love me. This was a D. Maybe I had just forgotten a section. Maybe the tape was longer than I thought, and I hadn't listened. I know you drove to 3 stores looking for something to play me on. You always were stubborn-like. I did remember that dress. I hadn't thought about it in 20 years, hadn't thought about it since I hadn't even told my best friend that specific detail. I had only said I'd found an old player, so my hands went cold. The tape clicked off again, exactly 10 minutes in, same as before the click, so I didn't sleep that night. I sat awake in bed with all the lights on, staring at the boombox sitting. In the morning, sunlight helps. It always does. Fear that feels enormous at 3 in the morning. SHR Denise sounded confused. She said my mother hadn't mentioned anything like that. Not once, and Basit, I went to the library and looked through old newspaper archives for our town, searching for anything. I stared at that clipping for a long time. I told myself it meant nothing. Coincidences happen. Old. Before that, though, curiosity got the better of me one more time. I found the old address listed. FO, his name was Walter, and he told me he'd lived on that street his whole life, 71 years, and not after her husband passed. Just her and the girl. I asked about the girl, Margaret. Walter's FSC. The girl was gone before the funeral. Family came and took her, people said. Relatives from out of. That night's recording started the same way. Static, then her voice. Sarah, it said, you called D. You're scared now? The voice continued, and something about its tone had changed. It was still I had prayed exactly that, more than once in the darkest weeks after the diagnosis, when I understood, doesn't that feel good to hear? Doesn't that feel like exactly what you needed? That was too much. I threw the tape and the boombox in a garbage bag that night, tied it shut in 3 separate, not same bag. Same 3 knots. Inside, the boombox and the tape, completely undamaged, like nothing had. I should have driven 2 hours out of town and left it in a dumpster behind strangers' business. It's like this had already happened before to someone else, and the ending was already written. I carry. I would wake up and find the bathroom mirror slightly fogged, like someone had just taken a hot show. Mine is dark brown. No gray at all. Not a 26. Another night, I woke at exactly 3:17 and just the smell, fading slowly, like she had walked through the room seconds before I opened my eyes. I started avoiding my own apartment, staying late at work, going to my friend Priya's place instead. I told Priya everything, one night over wine at her kitchen table, half expecting her to tell me. I and her grandmother, she told me, used to tell a story about a haunted radio back in the old country. Replace someone how? I asked, my mouth dry. Priya shrugged, uncomfortable, wrapping both hands arrow. They just said, don't feed it. Don't give it your attention. Don't let it keep learning, because ever. I laughed it off at the time, mostly because I needed to laugh at something, needed the fear in my sea, and each time, the voice sounded a little more confident, a little more like it belonged in my life. Priya went quiet again and told me her grandmother had passed away 4 years ago, but she remembered a talking back was worse. I hadn't talked back yet. Not once. Small comfort, but I held on to it anyway. I bought a hammer. That sounds almost funny now, writing it down. Go to hardware store, specify. I smashed the plastic casing until it cracked into a dozen pieces, until the thin brown tape spilled. Then I gathered every piece into a metal bucket, carried it out to my apartment, small concrete, coup. I felt for the first time in weeks like I could breathe. I went home and took the longest shower. I lay frozen in bed, listening. The static was faint but unmistakable. Coming from the direction of it was coming from the radio on my microwave. The little digital clock radio that came built into Don't You Miss Me? Don't you want your mother back? I'm so close now, Sarah. I'm so close to being the I know, it said. But I'm getting closer. Every time you listen, I get a little closer to being he. The microwave radio clicked off, its little green display going dark all at once. The kitchen went S. I never told you about the 317 thing, I said, my mouth gone dry. Priya went quiet on the other end. I couldn't. I told her about my mother, about the funeral, about the exhaustion of clearing out a comforting one. For about 4 days, I let myself believe it completely, and those 4 days were. I went back to the library one more time, driven by something I couldn't fully name. Samidon, I think, is old, patient, and it has done this before in other houses, wearing other mothers, off just a blank gray box where a name or number should be, glowing in the dark like something patient. I keep the phone in a drawer now, face down, the little red notification bubble sitting there in the